Good morning, world, and welcome to the Monster Energy DreamHack Studios live from Stockholm, Sweden. My name is Sims, this is Pansy, and we are here for Championship Sunday. This is it. No more lives left. We have 2 best of 5s today, and when we're all said and done, 2 more teams from each region. They'll be booking the tickets, but it's going to be tight.
It is. If day 1 was anything to go by, today is going to be just an amplified version of that. Teams have now had the chance to watch back yesterday's games, get a bit of information, and then come in hot today, which they need to do. We saw so many surprises, so many teams kind of catching each other off guard, and we saw DC suffering because of that, but that's only a very small part of the story. There's plenty of teams having that struggling period here. We'll find out if they can maybe pull it together today. Well,
that's the thing about PUBG, and we did say this quite, well, to be fair, we say it all the time. Anything can happen at any given Sunday, and this is Sunday. These teams have the chance now to turn it around, flip the stats on the head, and hopefully bag one of those 2 tickets for an all-expenses-paid trip to DreamHack Austin to play for $100,000. And, of course, all this is brought to you by the wonderful people at Corsair Energy and Monster Energy. Corsair Energy? Corsair and Monster Energy. My apologies.
Corsair brings me energy.
It's getting close. Yeah. And it's also been a very long weekend as well.
Might
and we've got another
some of this, just
on brand.
Yeah, it's 11 a.m. I'll give it till 12.
Make sure you just write the hashtag ad on the end there.
Yeah, exactly. Hashtag ad. Hashtag give me money.
Let's take a quick look at how the leaderboards are leading up into this one. To have a quick recap. Or we might even have a quick showdown of how things stood at the end of yesterday. So we had our first 5 games in this best of 10. Rogue and Vitality, they are above the green line currently. They're on board the plane going to DreamHack. However, hot on the heels. Look at those numbers.
Oh, it's so close. We've seen... And the big story to me is that a chicken dinner isn't enough to just secure you into this. Multiple, that gives you a real good shot. That starts getting spicy, but because it's so even, it's so hard to cut it with a knife here in Europe, you've got to look at Rogue and Vitality. Sure, they're ahead of the pack, but look how close those points are just behind them. You have the Knights surprising everyone, consistently placing within that top 5. You can see those placement points. They're actually almost up there with the #1 team. They've been that consistent. So incredible work from them. Harvu, surprising performances every now and then, keeping up on the kills, but their placements, a couple of bad games, got them called out early on. Again, though, to me, Rogue brought a brilliant brand of PUBG.
And that's what we kind of saw from them last week. It's going to be 2 weeks ago. We were looking towards them, and they were kind of the guys that were expecting to qualify or at least be up there. And they kept up with the pack, trying to do a few things towards the 8th and 9th game. Didn't really go their way. But this time round, they are top of the table. But it's still a very fragile lead. What's that, about 130 points, 135? It's nothing at all. And that's kind of the whole story between 7th place and 2nd place. 1 win literally will separate these guys, and you do have to call it out, Lauren, and you mentioned it. Pittsburgh Knights, 1,005 points. 2nd place in placement points, puts them right up into 5th, and it speaks volumes about being a key and consistent team up in the top 3.
And look in comparison to the kills they've actually got less kills than teams in 10th position, for example. They haven't been heavy hitters in that regard, but as said, placement is primary in this one, making sure you are pushing towards that end and being consistent at it. Doing it once, okay, that could be a fluke, but showing consistency means you've got good placements on circles, you have a good understanding of the meta and how it shifts. That's what we're seeing. But I've got to say as well, Na'Vi, what a story for them. Completely missing throughout the first couple of games. They're middle of the pack, but then that final few games, they really kicked it up again, getting that dinner as well. Brilliance from them.
And which just kind of shot them into 3rd place, and that's exactly what they needed. Can they do the same again today? Or we have someone like Imperial or Digital Chaos really pulling it out of the bag. Avanga are still a nasty little team that have these surprise gigs where you can just come out of nowhere and start destroying people while all these mid-fights are going on. We see them time and time again in various other competitions. They'll hear a fight going on, they'll approach it, and they'll just wipe out 2 teams while they're in combat with one another. They'll pick up the kills, they'll pick up a placement. Avanga are very dangerous, but Digital Chaos, I mean, you look at their points, okay, they're 1,000 behind, but essentially, and it's easy to say this, it's only essentially 2 dinners away from that top margin. If they bag 2 wins back-to-back, it's happy days for them. They were the only team at IEM Oakland that won 2 games. They've proven, on LAN, they're amazing players. We know these players, the legendary players. They can do this. Not having the best of days yesterday, looking to try and turn it around today. Vega Squadron obviously coming up from the open side. Project X struggling just a little bit. Alabama North causing a few problems for some teams. Obviously one of these teams that have just come into this from the open side. But, again, Plumbers, another one. very, very storied players on that roster. You've got a fair few of them, especially Hayes within there as well.
Yep.
There's so many things that can happen, and I think that's just the biggest storyline of today.
Oh, for me, it's purely now what do the teams do from day one to day two. I think that's where you separate a lot of the teams who do have that theory crafting. If they have a good coach behind them, that's where you get the benefits, because you can watch over the games that you saw yesterday, kind of improve on yourself, and also see, okay, who's around us, when did we struggle, what was kind of hindering us here, what held us back. So I think today is where we'll see the teams who have good coaches, who have good mentalities, maybe are making adjustments and they could push towards the top. But it doesn't mean they're going to be able to get to that top two and join all the already qualified teams. There's already teams sitting, waiting in Austin, obviously watching this as well, seeing who they're going to be up against. So that's the next big thing is, you know, you get through this stage, sure, but then the big boys are waiting in the wings. So we'll be waiting to see who joins the likes of Liquid out there. I think you've got FaZe already through. There's a lot of big names already qualified for Austin.
Yeah, we can bring actually those up now and show you guys exactly who has booked their tickets. FaZe Clan, Liquid, Team Secret, Kinguin, Tempo Storm, Dignitas, and Team Envious.
Dignitas.
Well, I can dig it.
No diggity. Got to bag it up.
There's a few memes we can do here, but
oh yeah,
it's getting cringe.
Look, that's what I live in. All right, it's the borderline of cringe.
I live in
the perpetual state of cringe. This is me. But yeah, we've seen some incredibly strong performances from these teams. There's no taking that away from any of them. They've actually come through and looked incredibly good. You look at the North American region, we had that coming in actually just yesterday. We saw one team pushing a lot further ahead than anyone else. We'll get to that later because North America is coming up later today, so we'll be finding out who else will be joining these teams there from that region. But in Europe, you've got the big heavy hitters so far. I think that's the main thing to be looking at. You've got the Kinguin, you've got Liquid, you've got FaZe. They're the big names you're looking at already pushing themselves through, right? They're the ones that kind of headline the marker. But with so much talent in Europe especially, and the CIS region coming in here, you've got a lot of the CIS teams being a real danger. Na'Vi could be easily a team amongst that who sits very well with that caliber. You've got, of course, Rogue, who'd fit very well into these qualified teams. So there's so much available right now. So much out there, so much to be seen. These guys will be watching these games, whether it be live or in the VODs. I love how like all the pro players are in chat anyway. It's always good to kind of just see them there, just joining in on the terrible memes. I don't know what they're spamming this time. Hooligans aren't playing, so you can't spam these hams. It doesn't work. Like, it didn't even rhyme, but the commitment was there, and I loved that. But no, I do love the way this community is already so supportive of this pro scene coming through, and I think everyone's kind of just building up mentally towards those Austin finals.
You ever seen Larson fans? Oh, they go in.
They go hard.
They like their emotes. There's
some good ones.
There is some belters, to be honest with you.
Like I'm all about the break emotes. You know,
They are good.
It's break. It's but they're not playing in this, so it doesn't matter.
No, they're not. Unfortunately, whether or not we see them over there in the open bracket, that's another story to be told. Because of course that is a story in itself. The fact that other people could be injected from this. You come from the open floor. We're seeing it again over in North America, where we've had this one open team come through. Fair enough. Set to Destroy. We do know they're a decent bunch of players, and we kind of won't expect any less.
How do you abbreviate that?
Set S-E-T, T-O, and then Destroy, and then X on the end.
Oh, so like S-T...
Yep, so we're going to move on from that one. I believe the teams are getting ready in the background. But the bigger question we have now is a couple of things on my mind. One, Digital Chaos, have they now found a little bit of a different road? Because yesterday they were getting bullied. Yeah, that was awful to see, to be fair.
Now, this is the thing, right? There's a case to be said, and this applies to CSGO and other games, right? There's fear of a name, right? And it's something that... So, for example, when teams played against Fnatic during their heyday, or SK, you'd have to, one, kind of tame them because they'll treat you like absolute trash, and then you can play your normal game. Now, DC approached Pachinki like they were the tier 1 team, which in theory, reputation-wise, you'd argue they are.
I think that's
fair.
But
if you can't deliver on those goods, if you can't actually deal with teams pushing you in these situations, you've got to have that backup plan in mind. You've got to be able to go to that next step. And I don't think they had that quite ready in their minds. They did fall into a new plan. They did eventually change it up. I want to see what they bring today. Have they been bullied out? Pachinki, have they just given that up? Or are they willing to fight for it? Again, Pachinki isn't great for that. It's one of the reasons I greatly dislike it, and I've always been vocal about it. You can't really handle it with two teams there actively looking for fights. You're walking away with trash loot, and that's simply not good enough. Anyway, we are into the game. This is where we'll find out if teams have changed things up, if they've looked for new approaches, because we've got south to north. Bit of a, I guess, a westernly split. But again, in Europe, we didn't see that East Coast being flush with players. We, of course, saw Milta, but Milta Powers completely absconded of players. Lipovka, quite light on players going towards it. Let's see what we have here today.
Yeah, North America seems to be the one where they look towards Lipovka and Kameshki, but as you mentioned, just teetering towards the west, going straight up the middle. Teams are going to be going to the normal places. You'll see Rogue, they're going to head down to military base. Happy days for them. Na'Vi, Primorsk, DC, now they're moving across. Is that going to be a Novo drop? Potentially not, because Yoki, on the opposing side, might be looking towards Milta stroke Milta Power. Knights, they'll be heading over to the east, which is what they normally do. Also, Crimson, they're up at the top there. You can see T-Bone and the boys also looking towards Yasnaya.
He was great for me as well. I've got to say, T-Bone, real surprising player. You saw individually what a different player can bring to a roster. They didn't have much challenge when they were in Yasnaya, and a lot of the circles played to it. So they placed very nicely off the back of that. They played it very well, but that's no discredit to them. There's
a bigger kind of conversation to be had there, is that if they did qualify here, for example, Liquid, they then have to go up against the hometown boys, and they've got to fight for it.
One of the favourites as well. You could put them definitely up there. If you're this team, though, you've got to know that that's the case. Whether or not you're going to fight for Yasnaya, you can definitely segregate Yasnaya relatively comfortably. It's big enough you can define the lines.
You can have
split
two
it
in there
north, south, east, west, however you want to do it, you can cut it up. But it's rotating out of Yasnaya is the next big hard part, because there's not that many car spawns. Obviously, on the eastern road, there's plenty, and on the southern dirt road that leads down towards school and such, there is that. But again, first circle is hit. It is going to be all towards the west. The team's going on the longer swings towards the east. This is going to limit time available.
TSM circle comes through. We've got about 20% water just on the left-hand side. Not many teams still in there. Up at the top, we've got a few that are going to be rocking around Georgia Pole, south and north. Happy days for them. You've got the plumbers that are kind of moving away through that central west coast kind of badlands. DC have not gone to Pachinki, as you can see. Kavorka takes a walk for some bizarre reason, but yeah, probably fallen off a bike. We know how dangerous they are. Anyway, Havu, usual place for these guys, uncontested down in South George. If they really want to, they can move through East Town because they are inside the circle. So East Town will open up quite a lot of loot. They can stay there. They don't have to rotate. They can wait until that next circle comes in, then decide where they want to go. Teams that might have a little bit of a problem, though, someone like Crimson that has to come in through the ruins, through the little yellows on the side, they might crash into a team coming outside of Pachinki. Rogue, do they get bridge camps, or do they do what they did previous? They had a nice little run where they took the boats from down on the back of Sosnovka, head up on the left-hand side, avoid your fights, come in. You've got to be careful, though, because of where this circle is, Lauren. If they do hit that west coast area and they come up on the beach, if there's a team sat in the yellow, it's going to be dangerous.
Very true, but it's also unlikely. Not many teams, of course, will go for that pure, I guess, western road, because there's simply not that much. You can split up. You can definitely work your way up it. It is there. But again, it's very unlikely you're going to have full, multiple squads locking this down. So there should be room to enter under the assumption they're well enough looted. You can't go for that secondary loot follow-up, right? If you're going to be going on the Millie Island, you're kind of under that assumption regardless. You're going to be sat there and you're like, okay, we should be relatively set. You should have 2-2s throughout. There should be no level 1s coming out of there if you've looted correctly and split it well enough. Now, everything else is, up to the RNG gods, whether you get range on your scopes or your guns, whatever. You should generally be fine, though. There's no pressure there. And DC this time, freedom to loot. So there's no excuses as to them having a bad game here. That's the imperative factor to this one. They have that entire eastern side. Now, the issue being, sure, they're going to have to move relatively soon. They have a lot of teams to get through. But you have Mini Power, Milt Power, these smaller compounds, the little kind of, I guess, petrol station. That is a lovely little backup spot because you do have the hangar down there. You can see it in the very corner of the map, just in the back lines. And a couple of nice buildings to loot as well. So there's plenty to be picked up here. They do seemingly have vehicles as well, unless he's got the speed hacks on, which he doesn't have. It is the car coming through. So again, they should be fine. They can get nice loot. And it felt like they were hindered like that before. They had pressure into their early drops. They didn't get the good loot sets. You saw level 1s aplenty. Hopefully this time they'll be well set and we see a good approach for them.
I think the only negative factor that could come their way is the fact that it took a little bit of time to get there. You had to get the long flight. You had to get the vehicles. We only just saw one of the players turning up. This is where they get a little bit sparse on loot. Do they have potential problems? Initial early fight going down here. Celis caught a little bit off guard here, looking down the 3 times the scope, 16 in hand.
It's a one shot left onto the other guy as well. Celis.
He's in trouble, especially against Vitality.
It doesn't look like he has meds either. He's not healing unless he's trying to buy the time. But I like this from Monkey. He's aggressive. He doesn't want to wait around for backup. He wants to deal with his players so he can get back to looting. The 16, we know it's not what it once was, but certainly more than capable of handling that. Celis gets caught out, isolated on his own. His team, of course, aren't far, but they do kind of this separated looting. You can see them all on the south side. Shiv as well is right next to another couple of players down by the yellow houses on that western bridge.
Really kind of unorthodox for Vitality to be looting where they are. Now, if I was Red Zone, I'd be quite shocked at this because you would be used to that farmland. You can kind of do your own thing. Look at where Vitality are. They're not home yet. You usually see them Milter, Town Centre, doing whatever they want. They've gone a little bit early. They've took the farmlands. Look at how spread out we are. When they saw them on the map, I think it was Shiv, completely miles away from his teammate. We do see the first victim fall, so they're going to bag 12 points, looking towards Gatka here. Here's an Yuki, just chilling. Love that little building on the end. You get a circle, it ended on Gatka. That building for me is absolutely god tier. I love it. It's
I still
great.
hate playing Gatka because it's so easy to get up close. There's so much cover, like on the trees.
Those bushes just down.
Oh, don't. Yeah,
nasty.
Yeah, they're very rude. And there's a nice little rock there too. And I'm wondering if Vitality's a knock-on effect of feeling that DC were actually vying for Milter as well. Of course, they see them parachuting the same way. They're under the assumption they could go wherever they want. I'm wondering if that's a knock-on effect or just an adjustment. That's something we could probably find out later if they repeat this into the next couple of rounds. However, Pachinki completely under wraps and
Filu taking out Shade.
Where was that?
That's a knock and a finish. Navi losing a player very early. Quite unorthodox. Rogue already setting up here. Not even setting up for the bridge camp, just making sure they're not being bridge camped.
Yeah.
One player will extend forward, offer up as the sacrificial sheep, so to speak. I mean, everyone just peeks by like, is he dead yet? Is he dead? Is he dead? Nope, we can go now. He's alive. Let's crack on, boys. But again, look at how far Shiv is. Shiv is like on the edge of that bridge. He'll be seeing them very, very soon. Vitality are really playing the emergency game here by putting a player all the way out compared to the rest of them. Yeah, it's not great.
We did see Shiv before. Yeah, he's not fancying this.
Send
help. Now, talking about Shiv, he was one of the solo-ish players, right? He was kind of been the, I guess, backlines player. The rest of Vitality were on their own in a 3-man squad. He was kind of isolated towards the south, so it feels as though he's capable of doing this. He's happy running the kind of solo into squads and just trying to be the nuisance. Find the avenues of approach. In the back of his mind, trying, all right, that's Rogue crossing the bridge. Cool, they've headed on. This probably means this area is free. Now, whether or not people have changed up, switched things around, as long as he gets enough to operate with, it's not the worst thing in the world. It looks like he has, you know, vest, level 1 helmet. I mean, it's not great, but the gun's the big thing he's missing.
Shotgun and Uzi.
Yeah. You mix that up. If you get something else, then you're going to see some sustainability. But he can be kind of, I guess, a weight point for this team. That whole southern side is completely sparing of players. So if worst comes to worst, again, you can split the circle, and you're pretty safe.
I mean, with the position and the role that he's playing there, he's not exactly going to want to take a long-distance fight. He's going to want to sit inside a building and wait for them and lock it down, to be fair. That's kind of the tactic that he's playing. So an Uzi and a shotgun, I mean, it'll do damage. We saw 2 members of Liquid, actually, in the first week of qualifiers, shredded by the Uzi up close and personal, going in a building. So he at least could defend himself. He's going to play a different game to what everyone else is doing.
Team vehicle strikes again.
I don't think you can do you can't do the tire trick on these. You can't on the buggies. You can't blow it out. On the other ones, you can tap one of the tires and the explosion will flip it back. But Na'Vi already losing a player early. We saw earlier on Shea going down. That's a big, big loss to Na'Vi. They're a team that kind of... Did his teammate have a... What's his teammate doing? I'm not entirely sure what they're going there. Well, I mean, they've got a nice little compound on the side of there. That god tier Harry Potter just on the hill gives you so much view of the open field and all the surrounding compounds. It's amazing. You
can be crept on a little easy on this one. The kind of terrain that leads up to it does allow for that, but it's a messy hill. It always is in that area. People always contest for it because you do have that. It's not even the Harry Potter tower. It's the radio tower that's next to it that obviously has the military loot. So it's a nice little kind of touch-up if you need another vest or a helmet, or that's one thing you're lacking. Again, the team who goes to Severny, in both EU and NA, the teams that have been going to the more, I guess, remote destinations that don't have the complementing loot areas or the supplementing loot areas like Severny that is relatively isolated. You do have gun range and a couple of other pieces, but it's not you can go to the next town over. They've been doing very well. Now, this is interesting. You haven't seen this. You see him taking a second and looking around. Rogue are up for the fight here.
Bullet comes through, so now that's the information done. Just...
Oh, the tag as well. This is big. Here comes the pressure. Ewan knows they're going to be tagged up. The call's been made. They're going hunting now. Clearing through the building, but in the back lines, it's the AK tearing people apart. Jazz are there, kind of cementing Rogue as one of the teams who are really pushing for this.
Looking around, making sure they're not being debated out. Fair play to them. You don't just want to go in willy-nilly and get completely battered as the team just hiding over the corner. You'll see that kill coming through any second. If not, they'll just let him bleed out. And hopefully for them, some of more of his teammates turn up, then happy days. Vitality, they're regrouping down at the bottom. You just see there, if you look towards the bottom of the East Coast line, Fuffins beats him down. Nice bit of BM there for you. Punch him in the head and nicks his stuff.
And this is why I like Shiv's positioning. He's kind of being purely a scout to a degree.
He worked yesterday.
For space. And it's now, last time they didn't go for space off the back of him, but they kept him for positioning. This time, I guess he's been able to create this rotation route in a safety area, because this central area is going to be incredibly overwhelmed with players, because you know that circle should not shift towards the water. Shouldn't. It doesn't mean it won't. So you're going to see that slight eastern lean from teams. A lot of compounds there, a lot of good hills, lots of good terrain around the V by Gatka, that sort of area. There is a chance there is a northeast, there's the southern side, all readily available. We're seeing Knights coming through, who are the kind of, one of the teams that surprised a lot of people, and we're seeing DC working their way in now.
Could be a little bit of a crash coming, both of these teams looking for a decent compound. Mihu will be able to see these guys rotating through the field, so he'll be passing that information back onto his team and saying, all right, boys, you can see him just slowing down now, he's just taking his time. They're all looking towards this big farm back building here, but I tell you what, it looks to me like Vitality might have eyes on it as well. Now, they're seeing these vehicles rotating through. I'd expect him to turn a pinhead and just say, nope, we're completely out of here, boys. Let's not go there because we'll be looking at imminent death. Meanwhile, over towards the hospital, just down on the south side. Knights getting tagged up. Actually, Knights and DC chasing one another there. So all this information's coming through from teams, and they're all just trying to look for a decent compound, or at least an area where there's room to breathe.
You went so far out.
I mean, it's circle one, so he can kind of do it, and the circle's kind of gone in his favour a little bit.
And this is the theory towards sitting marginally towards the east on these circles, is purely the fact that it should shift that way away from the water. It's a hazard of a guess. I'm surprised no one went towards ruins, because that's probably this northern side going to crunch on. We do see the death 4 stack of houses. This exact here being already littered with players. It's such a good spot to catch rotations. You can be the bridge trolls, essentially. It's very hard to cross by that. Havu's player, I don't really mind. Already getting kills coming in on towards a Na'Vi player. Yeah. Na'Vi are really struggling here.
2 will fall. Will they see a finish through? They're just going to be driving by, catching him on the rotation. I'm sure we'll find out. I don't really mind. Does finish him off. So Na'Vi losing 2 super early on. The boys in the CIS having a bit of struggle here in game number 6. Opening up Championship Sunday. Look at the rotation more towards bottom east corner, southeasterly way. You've got 1, 2, 3 potential teams there. Vitality, DC, Knights, all looking to get in, and this is where things start to get a bit dense. All the prime territory. They've got teams lurking in buildings. Everyone's chilling. Everyone's looking for that next good compound to move to.
Pretty much. I said DC should have good loot. That's still a level 1 helmet there. BYOC is spraying in on the old Scar.
I mean, there's so much to be said as well. Warning people, you know, just trying to force people out of certain areas and say, all right, boys, keep away. This is me. Get gone.
Lovely.
Nice. 12 points, excuse me. Move towards Vega Squadron. It's going to be noxious. These bikes.
Strange creatures, aren't they?
They've definitely had some weird and wonderful physic updates since that patch 12, because they're just so wobbly, and the suspension is ridiculous.
Again, this is very European-style fights here that no one's overly committing, but a couple of players being picked off. Most of the compounds have been taken up, or at least the more favorable positions, especially around Gatka. This could be a good circle for you. I know you like a bit of Gatka. Now, it is going to be Hayes, actually, in there very early on. He does have a teammate with him. And the Knights going right through the center of this. This is incredibly dangerous. I think they're going right towards Havu as well. All this area is taken. There's the, I guess, eastern side of that middle compound that could be taken. That could be picked up, and that might be where the Knights head up eventually, because there's not many other places. It looks like that's where they're going. There is that one farmhouse as well towards the east of that area, further towards, the Pachinki Hills coming off the back of it. Again, though, a lot of central positioning taken up here. A lot of the teams wanting to get that kind of, I guess, more stability to the ground. They don't have to rotate off the back of this. And, well, we'll be seeing if this works out. Aerial tower, radio tower, whatever you want to call it, this sort of hill here. Again, completely sparse of players excluding this team. No one's challenging openly. People just looking for knocks and a couple of kills.
Quite surprising that the ruins yellow haven't been taken, to be honest. They're completely open. There's about 6 little buildings that you can go. You can play off the top of them as well. You can jump off the roof so you can get a little bit of eyesight. You can just see there just below the ruins name, about 2 blocks down. Really nice little position. It lets you look through all the open ground because you are in an elevated kind of area. It means you can look back also. But no one going for that building just yet. Down at the bottom south, pretty well open as well. But again, you have to rely on that circle mainly shifting towards you. Aerial tower battle going down. Who's that going to be up there? Project X chilling. Vega Squadron looking for another 12 points. They've already got 1 kill coming out. Keep up. Warning shots again. Got to be careful with that ammo though, buddy. Firing these bullets, it's 5.56. It won't do that much damage at long range unless you dink him in the head, which is going to be a wonderful thing if you do manage to do it. Vitality looking towards the compounds I was just talking about through Ruins Yellow, but they have to be careful. Imperial, they're lurking in the ruins. And just above that as well, you have a Vanga. So if you do go for those yellows, I'd be ready to take a fight, especially if the circle does come towards you. Because again, they can support more than 2 teams, only just, but because of the buildings so close together, you can split teams between them. Circle shrink about to come through. We'll see which team's actually in a prime position. If it goes south, there's so much prime loot locations to go to. You can go anywhere you like, just outside of the quarry. You've got that big compound with the buildings that just overlook the complete field.
Ooh,
it doesn't.
Northern
she
circle.
goes.
This is nice. This is going to be fun. So, again, this plays really well to the teams who are up in Severny, Yasnaya, the kind of northeast side of the circle. They're still relatively around that. Vitality instantly looking like they want to get control of those yellow buildings. Mamino's team, I hate that building that they're in. It's the double. There's, I think, 2 buildings there, kind of grey stones.
Flat top, yeah.
The issue is that the tree cover around it, people can get right to your doorstep, and it's very hard to see. But, again, it's so central, you'll take that. You'll take that every day of the week. These are the yellow ones you were discussing, slightly on the plateau. Good to rotate in and out from. The issues begin for the other teams now on the extremities, having to work their way in towards a safer area. There's very little left in here. You will see teams just being kind of folded upon. I'm
glad Imperial decided to push up early because you don't really want to get trapped into ruins. Fair enough, it was still in. You don't have to move this circle. But the next one round you will have to, because you've just got a large landscape around you where people will just be picking, they'll be poking, they'll be doing all kinds of damage to you. And getting up that hill and getting out of the ruins, it can be a complete pain in the ass. Fair enough, you can rotate through the hillside and go down, just outskirts the extremity of Pachinki. But again, look at how many teams you've got lined up.
16 teams here.
It's ridiculous.
There's so many. And at this point, if you're on the very far edge, if you're on the southeast, you're going to have to be playing it slow. Bit of an awkward situation with a car. Again, team vehicle strikes hard. Probably 3rd, I'd say, in the standings thus far. And if you're rogue, you've got to play this slow. You can't just rush in now. You have to play extremity games because you have no information on central. And it looks like it may be a handbrake or just kind of hitting into the backside of the car. Thank you, observers. You're kind.
I love that. Just confirming what we're saying. Cheers, Ansvar
Rush doesn't
and Will.
do this for CSGO. Rush is rubbish.
Can't just call out observers.
Absolutely can.
Next time you go on there, they're just going to like roll cameras into the wall so you can't see anything. Cast this. Ooh. Look at that. Adrenaline, full 3, 24, and 8 times. That's a bad boy crate, but...
You ain't getting that.
Nah, it's out in the open.
No one is running for that.
That's some debate right there.
The fields of death away. It's like the gladiator scene. It's like whoever goes for it, just walking through the fields. Just like,
To Crimson, that's just a big bag of bait.
Big old bag of bait.
Just looking at it. Yeah, come on, boys. You try and take that crate. That's an easy set of points for us. Interesting play from Rogue. They're going to hit the back lines and go through just a little bit of the mountain area next to the, say mountain, it's more of a hillside area just outside of ruins. Fuffins
Those hills
again.
are nice though.
They're not, but I mean, there's a positive and the negative side. The positive side being they have the blue against the back, so no one's going to creep up against you. The negative side is that you only way forward, quite literally. Yep. That's the only way you can go. And by going forward, unless you get lucky and get that circle shift towards you, they're going to have to run the gauntlet of so many bouncers just waiting on the door saying, nah, boys, you stay there. It's going to be difficult to rotate from.
They still have that. You can see the run of the terrain. You can see that it does lead relatively well to those yellow houses. And because there's no one pressuring from north or south yet, there could be rotations that could pressure them. For now, they're still safe. T-Bone, the player that I've been keeping my eyes on, bit of a, a young talent coming in. Definite potential there. Hayes and the Plumbers trying to find some respite, but that may not be the case. Everyone's still somehow not having team wipes yet. Everyone's just about finding room to operate, but the next shift, there's simply not enough room anymore. I
mean, look at Hayes and Yuki. They're just driving around willy-nilly here. There's nowhere for them to go. What did they do? They've moved out of Gatka, and unfortunately, they moved a little bit too late. Yeah. Hayes falls victim, unfortunately. An Octave trying to get a steal heal, but it looks like Crimson should pick that up. One more tap. And there you have it, Pybas, 12 points move their way. Jorski onto Savage now. Jorski gets the knock and the finish. 12 points move to Havu. 54 players alive. We're starting to see crunch time, baby. Where's the circle gonna go? Bam! It moves just a little bit to the east and a little bit down south.
The issue becomes the big band across the middle of this circle towards the south is all open fields.
It's nasty.
There's not much room to be played there unless you're kind of allowing other teams to get the attention, which you can't do. You can snake it, I guess, but this is a really hard circle to play into. Havu are well aware that there's other teammates here. They already got the knock and kill onto one of them. Push up from BYOC, looking for the angle. Very aggressive play from him. And this is bait. This is surely going to be just a bit of a distraction while the rest of the teammates move up, and this is exactly what it is. Unleashing the AK at the perfect time. The oh, I thought he had it, but no, denied at the end. And it does get turned around. Havu do stabilize. The support was there just in time. The revive comes in, but very well played on the distraction there with the vehicle.
That was a very cheeky duck. I thought he had it, to be fair. Like you say, bobbing, weaving, ducking, diving, but his teammate comes through. The bait is real, and I believe that's the entirety of that team inside that building gone. We've lost 2 teams now. We'll have to go through and try and find out who exactly. Yuki has just fallen. Potentially the Plumbers have gone as well, but again, I think the Plumbers may not have had their full team lock in, as we can see here.
Rogue are in trouble. Look at this high ground coming in for the other side. The team of domination.
They pushed him pretty quickly then.
Yeah, Rogue have kind of just gambled it, right? And a gamble's only so good if you get the it's go your way. The team on the other side have the high ground that can they push in on and just kind of sweep them down. Rogue do have cover, they have the trees here, but this is a really nice split from upside on the hill, and Rogue are struggling. Vitality have chimed in on this one as well. That's a bit of a dig from before. Now look how many teams are just going to be swept forward here. This is so many players about to just clash.
Yep, I thought it was only Jazza alive, and that's confirmed. Last man standing for his team. He's got 2-2 and a pan, so at least he's got something to work with. Interesting play from Vega. They've gone central. Hopefully they've got vehicles and a defilade. There are quite a few little dips. Generally speaking, they're by the sides of the road. And like you say, just through the center of this circle, it's so nasty. There is just absolutely nowhere to sit. Jambaway has gone for the crib. M24 in hand, looking to pick up a few kills. The rest of his team are doing pretty well. They've got a 4K already. What's that? 48 points in the bag. Nice work from Crimson. Jorsy's trapped between a rock and a hard place on the back lines. He does step out, and he does step down. Meanwhile, DC have decided to show their faces. They're stepping in. They're letting everybody fight and turn up to the late game. Kind of that generic Avanga play. Let everybody fight it out and then move forward once it's time to strike. But DC themselves, they've lost 2. Fausto and Mihu, they fall. Smokes are going down. There may be a potential res here. Avoki, last man standing for his team. Enzo Lenzo's bleeding out, begging for some help. That's some banging shots. Straight onto Ewan. He falls as well. Now it's a 1 versus 1 here. That's a big bad boy grenade.
Yeah, you heard that land. He's just trying to do what he can, but DC might just stay alive. But the problem is this is the team that hold the line here. They're on the road that has the defilade down the backside of it. They can dip down. You just saw it there. They have completely locked out DC. I'd be very surprised if they make any sort of move into this. They do still have the players knocked, but York I don't know how much he can get out of this. It's an open field, essentially. You've got 1 rock to elude the vision, but beyond that, you're running completely in the open. Now, there could have been a saving grace here for DC, is that if there's support coming in from the back lines behind them, from Vitality, but obviously with Vitality already down to so few players, or at least in that position, they probably don't want this fight. You can see 1 man, I think that's Araxi on his own. And again, this is very tricky. This could be anyone's game. The next circle is going to be very defining. You're hoping it's an extremity push, but you never know here.
Jorski's literally begging for help. He's the last man standing. It was quite... Maybe it was done purposefully. You looked at his teammates. They were walking out in the open to kind of offer themselves up to teams, as if to kind of give the information, all right, we're all dead, we're gone. Just take us as bait and let Jorski carry on snaking away, which he has done. He's made it into the top 11. See how far he can go for his team. They need the placements here. We've seen other teams doing it before.
Strongest position here.
Yeah, by far. Almost dead center in the circle. Big compound as well. Everyone else around them, okay, you're going to have the odd rock, the odd tree line that you can hide behind, but everything else is just a shooting range. These teams, they have the height advantage through the building. They have the body cover looking through the windows. For them at the moment, Vega Squadron and Avanga, this is a very potential win.
Yeah, they're in really nice spots. Again, you can get collapsed upon quite comfortably in those positions. But it looks like Crimson might have an idea. There are teams around here. Vivas does indeed spot 1, gets tagged up, forced away, tries to find a bit of respite, but he might not get away with this. No, indeed he does. Actually, Mumino is going to get that. Now, they're not afraid of taking fights. They're showing their hand in this position, but still very much alive and kicking nade to hopefully get the kill for them. This is Noxious throwing down the grenades. Not going to get much out of it, but it's forcing away the other team.
See how this one plays out. Rixnaz and the boys just on the site. Kavalka and T-Bone, they're going to opt to try and disengage from this one. Leave them on the back line with the bike. Thankfully had the sandbag barrier there on the boxes. Can get away with this one. They're going to dip down low, so now they can use the back lines of the hillside and try and play people uphill, but it's going to be so important. Vampire still last man standing here for Vega. Trying to help his teammate out. They did get crashed in. The Knights, they've got his number ready. It'll take a couple more bullets and he's down, he's dead. Look at them, they're not going for the other players, they're just letting them bleed out. For them, this is easy pickings. If this bloke steps out, he steps down, grenade goes through, finds it. Kramer, you beast. Voxic finds 2 as well. What's that? 26, 36 points in the bag there for Knights. They've knocked another placement up as well. They're into the top 10. Rixnaz has found himself that defilade, and all the rest of the team has backed off, which was Team 12 on Crimson on the opposing side. Again, Jambaway. Another player falls for Na'Vi. Puck Molodoy there. Hits the dirt.
Oh, lovely. That's what you love if you're Lockwood. 4 times locked in on that range. You're feeling confident, but there's a lot of players in these fields. It's hard to do much with. You do have the hard cover, so you're feeling quite comfortable in that. Most of the teams left alive, excluding those towards the southwest, do have hard cover to play into. Jambaway there, loving having that M24 8 times as well. Perfect. If you can keep his eyes trained on the little bit of pushes coming in.
I think DC and Na'Vi just died. We saw their last individual players.
8 teams now.
Down to 8-23, still on the battlefield. As you can see, Avanga do have the God compound, the absolute prime position. The circle favours them as well.
Bloody hell.
Now for Avanga, this is literally shooting time. Everyone has to come to them. Everyone has to peek out. So long as they don't get overzealous, stick their head out and get picked, this is going to be good for them.
Can we have a look at the players in that compound when we get a second? Just go through how much ammo they have, because they haven't been afraid of taking fights. If we can just have a quick cycle through, perfect for Mimino, Golden. Yeah, nice for Keen, over 100. That's a little low on the Kar 98. It's still a lot, but you're going to see them have to be a little careful. So that's 80, that's 2 clips essentially, with the extended, of course. So they're going to have to be a little sparing, but not too much. They're still fine. They can take fights, they're comfortable. It's when you get down to like, we have 30 bullets between us. Oh. But for now, they're pretty comfortable. Everyone has to play late on this circle. You've got to have that blue on your back, so you'll be fighting on the line, essentially. You're going to try and lock yourself in on that line itself if you're close enough, and then just hold the line. That's all you can do here. Find that comfortable push and try to stay away from the houses. The DP starts doing damage. That kick on this thing is still massive. Yeah,
it just reaches for the sun. Every time we look at Crimson Jambaway, though, it's still that M24 finding faces. Voxic will bite the dust, unfortunately. He falls victim to it. 22 now alive. Tap, tap, tap. That should be the end of Texas. Monkey for Vitality. Another 12 points in the bag. Crimson are on the rotation. They need to move forward. They are inside the circle, so they don't have to go too far. They can use the defilator, that hillside, just to keep playing off of. The boys that are in danger, though, are Crimson themselves. I did mention that they had that defilator, but they do still have to push forward. Big, long-ass grenade goes through. I don't think that's going to find anybody. If it did, it would be amazing. Just fall short. Another player goes down. We're moving into 20 players. Imperial, if they do have that defilade still, they're going to be in a beautiful little spot. Mumino, now Avanga start to strike. Rixnaz steps out. Mumino had eyes on him the entire time, just locking him out behind those trees. Really nowhere for him to go, unfortunately, and this is going to be the story for many, many teams. Avanga just opening up. They have to fall victim. Lockwood does go down. Drainage comes through. Yeah, this is the story of Avanga right in this building. But Vitality and the team towards the northeast aren't in a bad position. If they find cover from the guys in that compound, the moment they move, the moment Avanga have to leave there, if they do, they're done for. So many eyes will turn towards them. There's no rotation period from the back of it. Mimino's doing great to actually get kills here. I'm surprised he's been able to. Knocks, sure, kills get tricky. Now, let's look how this situation unfolds. There shouldn't be too many fights. There could be a scrap towards the southwest, I guess. But most of these teams have gathered the ground that they want. You can see these guys now mentally marking exactly where these teams are. They know where they're going to push from. T-Bone's still alive here. Very surprised the Noxious boys have a player still up. And he's in a decent spot. He just needs to hide. He's being spotted by 2 teams. He's been, at least noted where he is. Knights still have a player up as well. But the main lineups, you've got Crimson there, Vitality there. You still, of course, have Avanga there, the big headliner. But now this gets very fun. So Crimson just get gifted a lot. You can see them starting to spread as well. And Knights have the player there. He can be a nuisance, but there's still a building in for Avanga as well. The other teams, where do you run? Do you go edge of the circle and hope you can collapse on the south? That's what Piabas is now watching. He knows that that's probably the likely route for the other teams. He doesn't know about the Knights player
but he's watching that skyline, waiting for someone to silhouette over the top. That's why you love these angles, but he can't be too haphazard. No helmet, not much to write home about, and we're already seeing a couple of fights breaking out. This is Imperial, still with all 4 players standing, so again, they're in a good spot too, but quite some way to travel if they do fancy trying to get in here.
Starts to make a move, and all of a sudden the bullets come through. Mirroring the SLR in the back, so if they can get a pick onto a Vanger, at least push them out of that back building. But they do have a slower side of the circle, so they can just chill for now. Vitality here with 7 kills. Look at Kramer, he's just looking towards these because that's the big danger of him. He has a vehicle that's exploded next to him, so he can kind of just chill for now. Cloudtail, unfortunately, he falls.
Nice work from Amino taking that fight as well. They're not afraid to take fights. It looks like they are more than willing to gatekeep here and be a real pest to the other sides.
The more important thing is it takes the SLR away from those guys. If anyone was going to get a pick on that building, it was going to be Cloudtail.
And well, here comes the blue as well. This is the added enemy that now becomes a huge factor. T-Bone is probably going to play this as late as he can. If he can wait for the others to get all the attention, maybe try and sneak his way in. Crimson has played this very nicely. They have not been lackluster in how much control of the circle they've got. These guys will still be the main brunt of the kills coming in, but actually they're finally losing out players. Here comes a push-up. It's going to be Imperial getting in the car and getting into the fight. I love this. They are down low. Suntouch is healing as we speak, doing what he can. The teammates are working their way in. Cloudtail is there as well. Vitality under pressure. It's Crimson coming in with the kills. Lockwood not far from it. If that nade reaches far enough, that could have been deadly, but it doesn't. And now the blue again, pushing Vitality further forward to the others. And there's the nade coming. Araxi goes down. And this is the pressure I was waiting to happen towards Avanga. Finally, people are right into the Suntouch. What a play. He just heads straight up there on the stairs, not afraid to take a fight. He will have to keep moving. Good moves from the other Avanga players now being the gatekeepers of the outside of this building, and they're going to switch up. Say, all right, you take that house. It ain't safe. We've got Mumino on the other side, and he'll do just enough to keep us alive.
Oh, my word. Crib is still hiding. Lockwood has absolutely no idea he's there. He's just dug down deep, held his nerve.
He can't be seen.
No, because the car's blown up. He's got the cover from it. He's utilising it.
Crimson are perfect in this as well.
I like how they've spread. They've not actually kind of sat back into a corner. They've literally, they're owning the circle. They moved out. They took a good 30% of it. Lining up, Lockwood does get pushed back.
How is this guy alive?
He's got no first aid. He's got no helmet. That's brutal. They're literally going to have to bandage through. Maybe use a stim when it gets down into the second block so you can boost it back up and get the burst speed and keep the tick going of the health.
Here comes the big crunch, though. This is finally the Avanga boys having to push out. The nades are good. This is going to keep them under pressure. Let's see if it does any follow-up damage. No, it doesn't go behind the tree, so already 3 players alive. And that is perfect from Crimson. What a denial of any pressure on the circle. And they're pushing it, too. Piavas is not going to be sitting back, maybe wants a little bit of an update or maybe some meds, something else, but there's still 1 member alive for Avanga, so plenty of potential. Vitality have a time limit on how much pressure they can apply. Ujambaway now laying down the fire. This is excellent play from Crimson, showing some real power, but the underlying story is this player right in front of Lockwood.
Yeah, Krim is loving life. He's just digging deep and saying, right, well, we ain't moving. Vitality, they answer back. They take out D's, they knock out a team, they gain themselves a placement. Shadow knocks out NBS as well, so now they can make some kind of a move if they really want to. Crimson, they own the circle. They are dominating it single-handedly. 14 kills in the bag is massive. That's an absolute ton of points. Spots Monkey coming to try and get the flank here. Nice play from him. They'll be focus fire onto there. I'm going to say they kind of took their eyes off of the other side of Vitality, but it doesn't look that way at all. They've got eyes on all the players.
From the Knights' remaining player.
If he gets into second, that's going to be amazing. He's done it.
He's done it. That is such sick play, holding his nerve. Now, if you're Crimson, you're baffled as to how the hell is someone else alive here. You've had complete control. Cramming out, adjust around. Does he get spotted? He might have. Yeah, he's definitely spotted now. All eyes are going to turn. He's got 1 down. Can he do any more? No, he can't. Jambaway puts his foot down on the matter. But what a great bit of play from Crimson. Considering they didn't have that compound in the circle, they played that so damn well. The final couple of circles, they were dominant in where they locked out. And you can see that even reflected in the kills alone. Playing
it perfectly and just dominating the circle, making it theirs, making a real big amount of foothold, disallowing any other team to move up on them. But I tell you what, Kramer, to stand your ground, not move, not breathe, not shoot, not do anything, just hide, dip in underneath that vehicle. Some people may think, well, he's just chilling, he's just camping, but honestly, it's a fantastic play when you're a solo like that. Yes. What the hell are you supposed to do against all these teams? He literally just dug in deep, and he successfully got his teammates 300 free points.
And that's opened things up here because Rogue went down relatively early as well. So, I mean, this again just creates opportune moments. We were saying this about Knights, that they'd somehow snuck their way in without chicken dinners, and they've done it just again. Second place there without winning it. Like, the points they're gathering is going to be huge. I can't wait to see how it affects the standing, because if teams towards the top don't finish high up, obviously, and the team that's a little lower down does, it jumbles the whole points, right?
Yeah.
So, again, it opens up more avenues for these teams to push forward.
And again, at Crimson, don't quote me on this, I don't think they were in the top 7 when we looked into this one, so that will just jump them in and kind of disallow those teams even further.
Yes,
but
the bottom drops even harder now.
It was tough at the top. I mean, a little bit unfortunate for DC. I think they may have snuck into the top 10. Don't quote me on that. Yokkers was snaking at the end.
Yep.
Still not the best placement. Same again for Plumbers, but I don't think, again, don't quote me, they might not have had a player load in. They were playing with 2 and 3 yesterday, which was, it's always going to be brutal when you get to that point. But again, it still kind of proves with Kramer, you don't have to have those players to make something work, to get a good position and just chill and just say, okay, let's play this one cool for now. I mean, he kind of gifted it a little bit by the fight from Vitality, because he was looking that way all along. That was the only way they could go, but it was downhill. You could see the thought process on Vitality, try and get around them, try and take the high side. And for him, I was like, well, happy days. You boys, you go that way. Go on, crack on. Just take a walk, and that helps me out. Didn't get he got a knock at the end. He was trying to get the flush, another 12 points in the bag, but either way, fantastic work to stay alive.
Yeah, not bad for a first game.
No, not at all. That's all we have then. Game 6 is all she wrote. These standings are going to be wild and wonderful. When we return, we'll crack on with game number 7. Will it be lucky for some? You'll find out. See you then.